Hey y'all, it's Kim again. So this is Project Mockingbird. I was listening, I think, to Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones, and they were talking about this, and they almost made it sound like that the CIA was somehow into the news media, but maybe they were just like hacking them or whatever you want to call it. But back then it was like a phone tap. So, anyway, I want to finish this up. There's already 4 videos. This will be number 5. Hopefully, we can get to it because some of the pages are like blank. But anyway, let's go and get started. This is 3rd of November, 1964, memorandum for Director of Security, subject Identity 50, and then the White House. It says the possibility exists that Identity 50, the White House, might be the source of some of the classified information appearing from time to time in the column, in the title of column, written by Identity 1 and Identity 2. I wish I knew who these people were so I could look up their articles. I just want to see if we can decipher any codes. It says a confidential source has advised that during the spring of 1963, he learned that Identity 50, then a clerk in the White House, Identity 51, had provided Identity 52, one of the writers of the title of the column, with information from White House files. Sources or source stated that as he recalls that Identity 2 was most interested in obtaining a transcript of a talk given on foreign policy at Columbia University by Theodore Sorensen. Identity 2 was unsuccessful in attempts to obtain a copy of Sorensen's office and other sources. Identity 2 was aware that Sorensen planned to publish the talk in a series of syndicated articles, and it was Identity Two's desire to publish the information in his column before Sorensen's articles came out. At Identity Two's request, Identity 50 checked the White House files and found only one copy of the Sorensen presentation. He subsequently delivered the desired information to Identity Two's home. Source stated that Identity 2 and Identity 50 are close friends. Identity 50's home is blank. Identity 52 and Identity 2 lives nearby. Source also indicated that Identity 50's wife had jokingly stated at one time that if Identity 2 kept all the papers he brought home from the White House, the home would look like the White House trash room. Oh my goodness. So could you imagine working in the White House? I couldn't imagine it. I'm not saying that I would go in there spying, but it would be just interesting to know what all you might pick up. Anyway, a source stated that he had read about the concern over White House security in the papers and that he felt obligated to report this information. Source declined to clarify his relationship or interest in Identity 50 and Identity 2 any further. He also indicated very strongly that he would not be available for further interviews regarding this matter. And Identity 54, Acting Deputy Director of Security. Identity 50, or excuse me, subjects is Identity 50, and this is secret. This says eyes only, but this one says secret, and then they crossed it off. So it says this agency is in possession of information from a source of known reliability, which indicates that as of 20th of May 1963, Identity 2 and Identity 1, co-authors of the then syndicated title of column, had an informant in the White House who was passing them materials for publication. According to our source, one of the items passed to Identity 2 was the text of a speech delivered by Theodore Sorensen at Columbia University. Identity 2 claimed that Sorensen planned to use the text of the speech for at least 2 newspaper articles to be printed in the near future by the Washington Star and other newspapers. Both Identity 2 and 1 planned to scoop Sorensen by, what does scoop mean? Publishing the same information in their syndicated column in advance of its public use by Sorensen. What does that mean? Scoop? Maybe just post it before anybody else. Let's see what it means. Oh, a piece of news published by a newspaper or broadcast by a television or radio station in advance of its rivals. Okay, so there's like breaking news. Got it. Okay. Our source advised that Identity Two's informant in the White House, after several attempts, was able to secure a copy of the Sorensen speech and passed it to Identity 2 on the evening of 22nd of May 1963. Our source does not remember whether the text in whole or in part appeared in the Identity 1 or 2 column, but offered the information that Identity 3, the only local paper carrying the column, often dropped the column from the issues, presumably for editorial or policy reasons. This is the only definitive leak of information from the White House of which our source had knowledge. However, he believes that the information may also have passed or may have also passed Identity to material known only as the Rothschild papers. I pulled this dude's name up and I'm wondering if that's him. I was going to go through some of the papers I saw. It says our source could not locate any of this information in Identity 1 or 2's columns, but gathered from discussions between Identity 2 and Identity 1 that the information had been published and that Mr. Rostow was furious about it. According to our source, the informant in the White House was Identity 50, who in May of 1963 was a clerk in the White House. Identity 51, credit inquiry made in 1962 was reviewed by this agency and confirmed his employment by the White House at that time. Recent discrete inquiries reveal that he is currently employed in the Identity 60, whatever that is. Additional pertinent bit of information provided by our source relates to a conversation he overheard between 2 and 61 in connection with the Sorensen text. Identity 61 told Identity 2 that she hoped her husband had not brought the text into their home and she had thrown it out. She went on to say that, oh, if I kept all he brought home, it would look like the trash room of the White House. No, in 1968, Identity 2 and Identity 1 parted, and Identity 1 added retired UPI reporter Identity 62 to his team, producing a renamed title of the column. Item 2 or Identity 2 launched his own column for Identity 63 at that time. So I guess some of these are like locations, some of them are obviously people, Identity 1 and 2, but some of this other stuff. Let's see. So subject Identity 50, a confidential source of known reliability. This may be the same document. Okay, a confidential source of known reliability on 20th of May 1963 advised that at 3 or 13:50 hours that date, columnist 2 briefed Identity 1, his co-author of the title of the column, syndicated column, his efforts to obtain material from the White House. According to informant, Identity 2 told Identity 1 that he was attempting to obtain the text of a presentation delivered at Columbia University by Theodore Sorensen of the presidential staff. Identity 2 indicated that Sorensen contemplated using the text of the presentation for at least 2 newspaper articles or columns to be printed in the near future by the Washington Star and other newspapers. Identity 2 indicated that we like to put the text into the title of the column prior to the appearance of the same information in the Sorensen columns. Identity 1 indicated he would be delighted to jump the gun on Sorensen and send the column out as a weekend special. That would make a hell of a good story, he told Identity 2. Identity 2 explained to Identity 1 that this friend of mine, who's right down there, he called Sorensen's office on 2 occasions for a copy of the speech, but had been told that the only copies of it are at Columbia University. Identity 2 indicated they believe that this to be a dodge because of the contemplated publication of the Sorensen speech in newspaper form. Identity 2 indicated that his source had told Sorensen's office blank and blank, redacted. And Sorensen's office agreed to send a copy of the source. Identity 2 indicated he had spoken to his source about the matter over the weekend and that his source would check on it that day and advise Identity 2 that evening. The foregoing exchange explained the conversation previously noted by the informant on 17th of May 1963. Informant advised that on 17th of May 1963, Identity 2 had a conversation with 61 who resided at whatever location, 52. Identity 2 asked 61 if 50 was at home, and 61 responded that he was not. She indicated that 50 was at a bingo session. Identity 2 told 61 to tell 50 that Identity 2 has Identity 12 if he's got a Sorensen speech. Identity 61 replied that she guessed it was worth it and asked if Identity 2 was referring to any particular speech. Identity 2 replied that he was interested in the one at Columbia University. Identity 61 indicated she recalled her speech, noting that Identity 50 had been carrying one around in the car on the front seat, but did not know Identity 50 had done it. What Identity 50 had done with it. She indicated that she hoped 50 had not brought it into the house and she had accidentally thrown it out. She told 2, oh, if I kept all he brought home, it would look like the trash room of the White House. 61 agreed to look about the house for the speech, but 2 indicated it would not be necessary. The conversation then changed to church activities in which they shared a common interest. As they were concluding the conversation of church matters, 2 told 61 to remind 50 that the offer stands. She again indicated her concern that she had accidentally thrown it out and indicated that if such had been the case, 50 could get another one. She asked 2 if he needed this speech text tonight. 2 replied that he didn't and that I've got plenty of. I was just going through my notes here, remembered that I had mentioned this here, and the conversation then renewed on church activities, with 2 explaining about his concepts with Catholic officials on Cardinal Mindszenty and the lack of a firm position and all the confusion he had encountered. Identity 2 concluded the conversation with the statement, well, you tell 50 that with all these errors in the church, I at least got to keep on sourcing. 61 replied, all right, you keep them straightened out and somebody else can straighten the church out. According to the informant, the next related conversation took place on 22nd of May, 1963 at about 22:30 hours. Identity 50 asked Identity 2 if Identity 2 was still up. When 2 indicated he was, 50 indicated that I'll be over in a couple of minutes. I've got that thing for you. He then indicated that 61 wished to talk with 2 and that he would leave for 2's house while 2 and 61 were talking. The conversation between 61 and 2 dealt with the story being written by 2 concerning an inside memo about preparation of the Pope's statement on peace. The conversation concluded with no further reference to the Sorensen speech text. The reference to Identity 12, according to the informant, deals with 2's close relationship to 11. As background, the informant advised that 2 had earlier used the text of another Sorensen speech in launching an attack on Sorensen. Informant indicated that Sorensen subsequently used the first speech in basically unedited form in a series published on foreign policy in the Washington Star. Based on word count and the number of articles published, Identity 2 believed that Sorensen would use the text of the second speech in another series of forthcoming articles on U.S. foreign policy and desired to scoop Sorensen with the latter's own material. Informant gained the impression that Identity 50 was also a possible source for Identity 2 of the earlier Sorensen speech and for what Identity 1 and 2 referred to as the Rostow papers. Informant could not locate any published title of column dealing with this topic, but gather from discussions between Identity 1 and Identity 2 that the information had been published and that Mr. Rostow was angered by it. I don't know where the Rostow papers are. Let's see. So this is 24th of May, 1963. We're going to hopefully get through this. Some of these pages are blank. Yeah, they're pretty blank. Okay. So it says memorandum for the record, subject Mockingbird. This morning, Identity 1 and 2 were discussing 14's visit as of yesterday. 2 stated that he had called his contact who informed him to watch out that Identity 14 could be a plant. 14 had indicated that he was going to visit them a number of times. He had inquired as to where they were getting their information on Cuba. Identity 2 indicated that 53 also was skeptical of 14. One stated that he would call Identity 14 next week and ask him why Castro would have been allowed to remain in power so long. Whoever this is, Identity 54, ADDS, iOS. We've seen some of those codes in some of the JFK files. So anyway, those writing a Project Mockingbird, this list is in the project file. Blank, blank, blank. Some of these forms are blank. 30th of March, 1964, memorandum for Director of Central Intelligence through Deputy Director for Support. Subject is Identity 1. This memorandum is for information only. A confidential source is advised that in the past, Identity 1 newspaper columnist was in frequent contact with Identity 55, newly appointed Identity 56. Source further advised that Identity 57, a member of the staff of the then Vice President, was also in contact with Identity 1. And then Sergeant R.L. Bannerman, Director of Security. And this page is blank. And then tab 7, excerpts from surveillance logs supporting friendship of Identity 1 and Identity 2 with identities 55, 38, 6. These are located in the project file. And then these are declassified October 29th of 2010. Anyway, I'm not seeing in there where the CIA obviously was surveilling these people, but I'm not seeing how they were like infiltrating the news media. Like maybe they were just getting some confidential information by the phone taps, but I'm not seeing what Alex Jones was saying about it. But anyway, that's the end of Project Mockingbird. So this will be part 5. I'll get that uploaded and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.